They come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead.
Good evening, America. Happy Friday. Welcome to the latest edition of Just the News, No Noise. Yep, we made it to Friday. How about that? I'm your host, John Solomon, reporting to you as always from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. As I've been reminding you all week, my amazing co-host, Amanda Hitz, he's going to be out of town for a couple of weeks. Don't worry. We got you covered. Starting with a pretty busy day for President Trump. He weighed in on two very big issues earlier today as he went to go meet the soldiers who carried out that brazen arrest of Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela at Fort Bragg. You get to celebrate with their children and their wives and spouses. It's a remarkable day. But as he spoke, he answered some questions from the press outside of Air Force One, and he was asked about the significant military presence that has been moved toward Iran and what Iran could do to avoid an attack. He wasn't subtle. Here's how the president answered.
What can Iran do to avoid attack?
Give us the deal that they should have given us the first time. If they give us the right deal, we won't do that. But, you know, historically, they haven't done that. I will say they want to talk, but so far they do a lot of talking and no action.
Do you want a regime change in Iran?
Well, it seems like that would be the best thing that could happen. For 47 years, they've been talking and talking and talking. In the meantime, we've lost a lot of lives while they talk.
That would be the best thing that could happen, a regime change. The president pretty clearly telegraphing what he'd like to be an outcome, and if not, he needs to get a real deal. That was pretty important. The president also weighed in on the big debate around voter ID. This is something I know personally. He's very, very concerned, and as we reported yesterday, the House passed the new Save America Act to and moved it over to the Senate, and the president was not shy about the message for Democrats who refused to back any kind of voter ID. Writing on Truth Social, the Democrats refuse to vote for voter ID or citizenship. The reason is very simple. They want to continue to cheat in elections. That was not what our founding fathers desired. I have searched the depths of legal arguments not yet articulated or vetted on the subject and will be presenting an irrefutable one in the very near future. He's also pushing hard to get Republicans to join in and get rid of that filibuster or turn it from a lazy filibuster to having to stand onto your feet till you drop filibuster, which actually would give Republicans the opportunity to get the bill passed sometime this summer. Meanwhile, a little bit of activity, accountability, and the court's former CNN host Don Lemon pleaded not guilty to the charges of conspiracy and interfering with the First Amendment rights of worshipers earlier today. Those charges, of course, stem from a protest that disrupted a Minnesota church service over the Trump administration's immigration crackdown in that state. The former news anchor has argued that he was covering the protests in Minnesota as an independent journalist. The government not buying that argument. All right, one last thing. The economy, it continues to outperform expectations. Yesterday, we told you 150,000 new jobs, way above expectation. Today, inflation came in at a cool 2.4% below what was expected. The Trump economy is revving up and inflation is drawing down. Two very important dynamics. We'll talk a little bit about that with Congresswoman Claudia Tenney in the second block of the show. But first, I want to get back to the issue of election integrity. As we reported a couple of weeks ago, the FBI raided the Fulton County warehouse where the 2020 election ballots for Georgia were. There's a very clear understanding now what the FBI was looking at, whether county election officials did not follow the law, did not follow rules and how they recounted ballots. The FBI saying they had corroborated ballots were missing. They had corroborated that ballots had been double scanned and counted, that they had corroborated other irregularities that long were called conspiracy theories in Georgia. They're no longer conspiracy theories because they've been proven by the FBI. In fact, Fulton County executives acknowledge to the FBI those things happen. Right now, we're going to turn to Georgia State Senator and a candidate for Lieutenant Governor of Georgia, Greg Dolezal. Senator, great to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me on. Always good to see you.
All right. I remember back in 2021 when I was using FOIA to get the Carter Jones report, and we learned a little bit about the fact that Brad Raffensperger's office knew there were a lot of problems in Fulton County. I remember when we got the ballots with spoiled ballots that still got counted. And people say, oh, that's all a conspiracy theory. The FBI, in that affidavit, they kind of seem to say we've corroborated some of those things, and they're not conspiracy theories anymore.
Yeah, they're not conspiracy theories at all. Maybe my favorite story from the 2020 election that showed how out of control Fulton County was is there's a gentleman, the chief operating officer for the Secretary of State's office by the name of Gabriel Sterling. And he had bought a new home just a couple of years before 2020. And a piece of mail came in asking a lady who he had bought his home from a couple of years ago to turn in her absentee ballot. So Sterling had an illegal vote cast from his own home. He went to Fulton County to challenge the eligibility of that voter, and a Democrat nominee to the Fulton County Board of Elections actually voted against his challenge, even though he certified the woman had moved out of state years prior to the 2020 election. Now, who knows how many times that happened in Georgia, but we know that the Georgia 2020 election, not only in Fulton County, but certainly in Fulton County, was a mess.
Yeah, and the warning signs about Fulton County have been in place for a decade. The state has never really been able to get it corrected. I want to talk a little bit about the Democratic argument. All right, they went from all this all conspiracy theory to, oh, who cares that all this now gets corroborated, because it wouldn't have changed the outcome. Now, we're never going to know what changes the outcome, and it doesn't matter because President Trump is president again. But it does matter that the people that administer our elections do it in a fair way, do it in a way that's compliant with the law, do it in a competent way. What are the opportunities right now at this moment for the federal government, state government, and voters to press Fulton County to do a better job in administering elections?
John, I have called for the state to take over the Fulton County elections. We passed a law in 2021 that set the triggers in place for the state election board to take over the elections for a temporary period of time if a county proves they're incapable of following Georgia law. And if there's ever a county that's proven it, it's Fulton County. Today, Fulton County has hundreds of people still on their voter rolls that were born in the year 1900. They have thousands of people registered to vote at illegal voting locations, parking lots, homeless shelters that have been closed for a decade, UPS stores, storage units. It is time for the state to step in before the 2026 general election to ensure that we can have a free and fair election.
Yeah, so important. It's a simple thing, and it'll only take a couple of years probably to clean things up. Now, Brad Raffensperger, for a period of time, the Secretary of State, kind of proposed that. He seemed to drop back off of that with the state election board at some point. Is there renewed interest? Do you feel some momentum, or is there still inertia to this idea?
I hope the state election board discusses it when they meet next week. I was the first elected official to call for that, but I certainly talked to other colleagues of mine in the General Assembly. And there is certainly on the Republican side, the people that are paying attention to this know that Fulton County is a problem. And they know that the only remedy that we have is the state election board coming in. So we're going to have conversations with those state election board members, and we hope that they act boldly and quickly and begin the process of getting these people off of these voting rolls. If you have dirty voting rolls, you're going to have dirty elections, especially when you look at mail-in ballots.
Now, that's an interesting dynamic, too, because the Trump administration, a Republican administration, has been trying to get a look at Georgia's voter roll so that they can make sure that everything's cleaning up. And Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger opposing his own Republican administration here in Washington doing that. What's behind that? Why wouldn't a Georgia state official who's in the same party as President Trump not want the federal government's help in cleaning up that voter roll?
It's really clear in Georgia law this is allowed. There's a specific carve-out to hand this data over to the federal government. Raffensperger is lying to Georgians and saying that it's not lawful. It is lawful. And think about this for a second. He's saying he doesn't want to give Social Security numbers over to the federal government for fear of what may happen. Well, who issued the Social Security numbers? It was the federal government. So this is patently absurd on its face. It's another delay tactic from the everything was perfect in Georgia elections industrial complex. And that's exactly what we have. It's some of the highest levels of Georgia government. And we are looking to shine a light of truth on that. We passed a resolution out of the state Senate calling on Raffensperger to release those documents. He has said that he will not, but we're going to keep pushing.
Will Governor Kemp, you think, put some pressure himself, or does he stay on the sidelines of this?
You know, Governor Kemp is a former secretary, and I think that the Secretary of State, I should say, and so he tends to have deference for the office. I have not heard him weigh in on this topic. Certainly, we believe in the separation of powers. And so from our side in the legislature, while we have respect for our governor, we also know that we appropriate funds to the Secretary of State.
That's right.
We write the laws. We have plenary power in writing the laws and how elections will be held in the state of Georgia. And so we are, as a legislature, that's our authority. That's what people elected us to do. And so while we respect the governor, we're moving forward and pushing for this because this is actually our responsibility.
And of course, the legislature in Georgia did so much after the 2020 election to create model laws that are much better than were in Georgia and much better than many other places in the country. And I want to ask a little bit, because you've seen the impact that the Major League Baseball pulled their all-star game, but everything turned out fine. You put voter ID laws in, and more people voted, not less. When you hear a Chuck Schumer or someone in Washington claim this is voter ID is Jim Crow 2.0, what do you tell them about the Georgia experience and what happened when you put voter ID in?
That's the same thing they said in Georgia when we passed our voter ID laws in 2021. This is Jim Crow 2.0. This is racist. You know, they say that they don't believe apparently the minorities are able or capable of getting an ID. You have that conversation with your friends and like, what are you talking about? I've got, here's my ID. But this is just a lie and a scare tactic by Democrats who are committed to ensuring that people do not have to show an ID to vote. They're not even interested in ensuring that someone is a citizen of the United States to vote in American elections. And this is one of those 80-20 issues, John, where 80% of the country is with us. The Democrats are bowing down and kowtowing to the most radical elements of their base. And as we saw in Georgia, like you just mentioned, year after year, record voter turnout. I believe that when people think their vote matters, they are more likely to come and vote. And when they know an illegal voter is not going to dilute their vote, it compels them to come vote because they know that their vote will be counted. And we believe in one person, one vote. The Democrats obviously aren't with us on that, but the American people are.
Yeah, the numbers are just off the chart, 80-85%. It's not even ambiguous. It's very clear. When I was a young political reporter, when I come down to Georgia to cover it, a lot of times my elder political reporters who were training me as a young guy would say, you should always be in a Georgia state of mind, meaning as Georgia's thinking, you'll understand how the rest of the country is thinking. We're headed into midterm elections, obviously some big prizes in Georgia. You're running for lieutenant governor. The economy is really roaring into a really strong position right now. Job creation up, inflation down, more money going into the American taxpayer's pocket because of the new Trump tax law changes. What is the mood of Georgia voters, and how will that play out as we get closer to the 2026 election?
People are optimistic here in Georgia. I filled my car up today with gas at $2.42 a gallon.
Wow.
And it wasn't that long ago that it was close to double that. And so the energy prices being lower, the fact that we have a pro-energy president in the White House, the fact that we have, as you mentioned, the inflation numbers coming down to really historic norms after having historic highs just a couple of years ago. Georgians are working. Georgia is thriving. We have really a resurgence of people being able to participate in the American dream here again, which was something that got lost during the Biden years. I think we're going to have a very, very good 2026 here in Georgia. And you're exactly right. This is a must-win state. The state will likely control the United States Senate. John Ossoff is California's third senator. And the people of Georgia, I believe, are going to send him home and send a pro-liberty, pro-America U.S. senator back to D.C. to represent this great state.
Yeah, a Democratic senator who's part of a party that says voter ID is racist, but he required a voter ID to attend his own political events, right?
He did. And just remember, on the Save America Act, you had 213 House Democrats walk into the House chamber, put their voting card into their voting machine before they could cast their vote against requiring voter ID for people to vote in American elections. It's just absurd. So you have this scenario where the left is out of touch with the average American, and they are voting against things that people just can't relate to. You know, John Ossoff, you mentioned him. He voted against preventing men from participating in women's sports. And that's another 80-20 issue where, you know, freedom-loving, fair-minded Americans cannot relate to that way of thinking. And it's going to cost the Democrats in November.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. And I will say this because I did watch the vote. I didn't hear a single Democrat claim they were a victim of Jim Crow when they put that card in to vote a couple days ago. So apparently it isn't as big an issue as they claim it to be. Senator, before we let you go, if people love what they heard today and they want to learn more about what you're doing, how they can help you as you're running for lieutenant governor, what's the best way to stay in touch with you in your campaign?
Yeah, people in Georgia want to send a Georgia First pro-Trump conservative to run the Georgia State Senate. GregDolezal.com, Dolezal for GA on X. Look forward to being back on your show. Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, we really appreciate the update and the very important things that are going on in Georgia. It's really a bellwether. Great to have you on the show today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, what a great interview. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When I promise you, after the break, Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, she always brings the goods to this show, brings the receipts. We're going to ask her about the economy, about what's going on in New York, all of the socialism and failure that the Big Apple is seeing under a socialist mayor, and a whole lot more. But first, we're going to get a quick commercial message from all the great sponsors here at Real America's Voice. We'll be right back. Hey folks, how many different beauty potions do you have sitting on your bathroom counter right now? Well, I have found the secret serum, and it's Vibrance Super C Serum. The ingredients in this one bottle can replace your day creams, your eye creams, the night creams, the neck creams, the wrinkle creams, and even the dark spot reducers. Made in the USA with the highest quality ingredients, including vitamin C, hyaluronic acid, vitamin B6, and vitamin E. Super C Serum delivers noticeable results. Now simplify your skincare routine, get a healthier complexion, and minimize wrinkles and age spots with Vibrance. Go to Vibrance.com/justnews to save up to 37% off and also get free shipping. That's Vibrance, VIBRIANCE.com/justnews.
From powerhouse vocalist Natasha Owens, known for standout singles like Trump One and Somali Waltz, comes her brand new release, The Boss, released on Real America's Music. This is the direct response to Bruce Springsteen's recent release, The Streets of Minneapolis. While Springsteen once branded himself as a voice of the working class, The Boss gives a voice to everyday Americans and reminds listeners who truly shapes the future. The Real America's Voice audience has the power to move charts and shake the industry. Download it right now. Scan the QR code or search The Boss on iTunes. Push it up the charts. Make them notice. From powerhouse vocalist Natasha Owens, known for standout singles like Trump One and Somali Waltz, comes her brand new release, The Boss, released on Real America's Music. This is the direct response to Bruce Springsteen's recent release, The Streets of Minneapolis. While Springsteen once branded himself as a voice of the working class, The Boss gives a voice to everyday Americans and reminds listeners who truly shapes the future. The Real America's Voice audience has the power to move charts and shake the industry. Download it right now. Scan the QR code or search The Boss on iTunes. Push it up the charts. Make them notice.
Welcome back, everybody. As we've chronicled on justthenews.com, the first month of Mayor Mamdani's reign in New York City as a socialist governing mayor has been a disaster. The snow is not being cleared. The garbage piles up as high as 8 feet high. And the Big Apple, a lot of people saying, looks a lot more like a mediocre apple. And with big new taxes coming, it's entirely possible you'll see a larger exodus from New York City than we've already seen. Joining us now to bring us up to speed on that and a whole lot more, including the extraordinary success of the Trump economy and a big win in Congress. She represents the great state of New York. She's Congresswoman Claudia Tenney. Congresswoman, great to have you on.
Great to be on.
All right, I want to get to Mayor Mondami, but before I do, yesterday, the economist said, probably going to be a bad jobs report. Turned out to be 150,000, way above expectation. Rockin' today said, maybe inflation is ticking back up. It actually was a very cool 2.4%. The Trump economy continues to outperform expectations, and it feels like now, for the first time, the dinner table, the water cooler, is starting to feel the impacts. What do you hear from your constituents?
I think this is just the beginning, because as we go into tax season now, you're going to see the huge returns coming from there. Obviously, the state and local tax deduction went up some, and so that's going to impact more middle-class taxpayers. It went from $10,000 to $40,000 for people and couples earning less than $500,000 a year, which sounds like a lot, and it is. But it depends on if you're in New York City or upstate. But this is beneficial to a lot of my constituents. You're going to see a lot of these small business deductions have been made permanent. The investments and a lot of the taxes made permanent. The tax cuts that were from the 2017 are going to be great, and people are going to start seeing more money literally back in their pocket that they were losing under Biden. I think what's really important, and you just talked about the jobs numbers. The participation rate, the inflation is down. The cost of doing business is down a little, like energy is down. But the big problem, and I think this is what everyone has to talk about. If you take New York State, California, Illinois, and the really blue states, some of the Northeast, their terrible energy policy continues to keep energy rates high, which keeps the cost of goods and services high, which keeps the persistent inflation. Even though it's down, it would be down even further if these states would just mirror some of the more successful states that actually are governed by Republicans or common sense Democrats. So this is a huge problem. And New York is among the worst, if not California and New York. Highest taxes, highest energy. And New York State right now, we're having an energy crisis. You're hearing them talking about it all across the state. And that's because we have this horrible Green New Deal in New York that was passed in 2019. And with that is a cap on the amount of fossil fuels we can use to fuel our energy grid. That means that we have an unsustainable, unaffordable energy grid that could be very dangerous and I think catastrophic for the future of New York if the Democrats don't change. And here's another important thing. Upstate New York, what are we doing? We have energy coming from Niagara Falls. We have energy coming from our nuclear power plants, the only operational plants in the entire state in my district along Lake Ontario. We get energy from Quebec Power. We use solar. We have windmills. They're not really efficient, but they provide some power, not baseload power, not the affordability and the security that we need. But guess who uses all of our natural gas? New York City. They're over 95% is New York City. They are the ones that are telling us we can't use fossil fuels while they're powering their energy grid with almost 95 to 98% fossil fuel usage. They're the ones who shut down the nuclear power plant Indian Point by Governor Cuomo. So these are all things that lead to us not being with everybody else on driving the cost down. Now, new taxes. That's going to make affordability even worse. You're going to probably see more taxes on energy, including gas. You're seeing Niagara Mohawk and all the other power companies, National Grid, Con Edison. They're not able to do what they need to do in using all sorts of energy in a smart way to bring the cost down. They're forced to use a less efficient, more expensive energy in order to keep the power grid stable. And that is now not good, not looking good for affordability.
And the hypocrisy line, those limousine liberals who have their gas-powered limousines look like they're revving them up to maybe move out of New York City and New York State with the millionaires tax and other ideas going on. New York's already suffered a pretty significant exodus the last decade. Do you think it speeds up in the next year with the Mondami policies and the Hochul policies?
Look, I think people want to leave. They're not seeing a future in New York City where they're going to be rewarded for the work that they put in, the risk that they take. And the more you tax them, we've proven that we have the highest outmigration in the entire nation because of our high taxes, the highest in the country right now. We have high costs all across the board, and people are leaving. And they're leaving because they want to go somewhere where they're more free, where they have more opportunity and more prosperity and more security. I mean, remember, we have had an open border. We've taken in all kinds of illegal immigrants and used tax dollars to pay for all their needs over our veterans, over our needy citizens. We have the highest Medicaid per capita capita rate. And why pay that? You can go to another state and just, drive into Pennsylvania and you immediately get a tax cut. If you're a business and you drive into Pennsylvania, you immediately get a tax cut. You can reinvest. You can add more jobs. You can be competitive with your competitors, which you're not in New York. I mean, this is the communist mentality, the Marxist mentality that's dominating the Democrat Socialist America, who are the tail wagging the dog in the state legislature. And they're all been emboldened by the election of Mondami, who, by the way, barely got 50% of the vote. So unfortunately, there were too many people in that the mayoral race that caused us to end up with this guy. And he's a disaster. People are dying. People are upset with what's happening. The homeless are dying on the streets, the free grocery stores, the cost of living, the garbage, everything it's just, I think, I hope those 50% that voted for him are starting to wake up.
Yeah, no, the first month has been a cardiac paddles awakening for a lot of people. I think 19 people died in the cold. Some pictures I've seen have the garbage in New York City stacked up 8 feet. It took a week to get even basic clearing of some of the snow from sidewalks. And in any other time in my lifetime, when you get to New York City, a day after a snowstorm, things get running because New York doesn't sleep. But he has really underperformed. I want to turn quickly to the extraordinary work, because you were an important voice on election integrity for a long time. You get the SAVE Act through, then you get the voter ID through, then you combine them together and you get the Save America Act through. What do we have to do to get a United States Senate to get off its duff and pass that bill?
I just can't understand why anyone would vote against this. It is so narrowly tailored, this bill. First of all, the citizenship is required in federal elections, although, again, New York State, the Democrats in New York City tried to pass a bill that would let non-citizens vote in our elections. The far left Court of Appeals, New York's highest court, threw that out and said, no, you must be a citizen to vote in elections in New York. So we're good in New York. Our Constitution requires it. Our law requires it, including the New York State Constitution. So this is an easy yes vote. We have the voter ID law, which, most Americans, regardless of party, regardless of demographic support, that we need to make sure we secure our elections, that we are who we say we are. I think I've said this on a few other places, but it's worthy of noting. I was one of the intelligence committee members who went to Honduras to witness a third world election where their elections were more secure. Not only did they require picture ID, they required proof that you reside where your ID says you reside. And they took an extra step. They do biometrics to make sure there's one citizen, one vote, you can prove it. Identity theft is a huge problem in the age of information and the internet right now. People want to make sure that their vote is secure. This is an insult to anyone who, when the Democrats, just gaslighting that, women are disenfranchised and minorities are disenfranchised. Absurd. Illegal immigrants who barely speak our language in many cases come into this country and they get a license, which is a valid voter ID in the state of New York. And they often are allowed to vote in our elections because there's no way under New York law that we can prove that they're not a citizen. This is absurd. And I think people need to look at this as a common sense issue. It's being made into a political issue by the Democrats because what are they trying to do? They're trying to cover up everything you and I talked about in the beginning of the show, John. The Trump economy is on fire. Trump has done amazing things in the last year to really give us a boost in our economy, to give Americans across all demographics, all social classes a chance to thrive and prosper. And they know that it's working, and they're trying to do anything they can to cover it up and to malign President Trump and the great policies he's gotten in place, through a very difficult year, very narrow majorities in the House and Senate. Kudos to Leader Thune and Mike Johnson for working with Trump and getting things done for the American people.
A couple of years ago, we made everybody get the new licenses so that we could be a more secure country when it comes to identity. Any reason we couldn't add a requirement to all states that their citizenship status be listed on the driver's license on that tamper-proof ID? Seems like it would make this a lot easier issue.
Absolutely. I think everything we can do to make that ID universal and everyone can use it for everything. I know, look, the real ID was kind of a pain. You had to go get one or bring your passport. If we could just have one thing that we could carry around with us to prove that, for everything we need, because we have to use our voter registration card for everything. I think it was Representative Michael Cloud from Texas who actually showed that we in the House of Representatives use an ID in order to vote. on the floor of the House of Representatives, when we cast a vote on behalf of our district, we have an ID that we put into a machine. I mean, even that is just basic. It's just the way it, with so many, obstacles or so many opportunities for fraudsters to come out and take advantage of us, especially vulnerable seniors and people, who can't protect themselves. This is just common sense, John. This has nothing to do. This shouldn't even be a political issue. This should be a no-brainer. And why the Democrats have chosen this lane, I don't understand. But I think once the economy really starts going, I think this doom and gloom discussion about whether we keep the House or not will go away. The only thing that can screw this up is the worst form of electioneering that we have, and that is called gerrymandering. And if the Democrats get their way, they're going to do whatever they can to destroy Virginia, to destroy California, all these other states, and try to win that way, as opposed to winning on policy at the ballot box.
The Louisiana case in the Supreme Court could be the most defining case for elections in more than a century. We're going to keep a close eye on that, Congresswoman. Yeah, it looks like it's going to go the right way, too. Good to have you on the show. As always, we always get a great common sense, a healthy dose of common sense when you're on. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much. Great to see you.
Yeah, you as well. Always enjoy the conversation. All right, folks, coming up next, we talk to another congressional hopeful and America First candidate for Michigan's 8th House District. Can Republicans hold off a blue wave come the midterms? I think so. We'll ask Amir Hassan that right after these messages.
Did you?
The radical left knows exactly what they're doing. They want to steal the election. We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue, and we're going to the Capitol. They need to take back our country.
Events in Washington have taken a violent and tumultuous turn.
January 6th wasn't just a moment in history. For thousands of Americans, it was the moment their voices were taken.
It's insurrection.
They were persecuted, hunted.
Seditious conspiracy.
But behind prison walls, something unexpected happened. They found their voice again.
Started singing the national anthem.
We took it up to him at Mar-a-Lago. He goes, I'll put my voice on it.
Our supporters made this go platinum.
Real America's Voice is telling the real story of January 6th like you've never seen it before.
Everybody, this must be peaceful.
This is not the story you were shown.
I take responsibility.
This is the story they live.
Government entrapment scheme that this actually was.
The J6 Patriots are no longer staying silent. They are speaking, they are standing, and they are telling the truth.
You can't kill us. You can't beat us.
Scan the QR code or visit RealAmericasVoice.com. Real America's Voice presents The Sleeping Giant. Available now.
Welcome back, everybody. I love this part of the job, getting to meet new candidates, fresh faces on the campaign trail, people who are entering into politics to make this country better. We got one from the great state of Michigan joining us now. Congressional candidate from Michigan, Amir Hassan. Amir, great to have you on the show.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. I'm blessed to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, we're blessed to have you. And I loved our conversation in the commercial break because you're a dad, you're running for Congress, you're doing all sorts of extraordinary things, even sliding in a karate practice for the kids in between coming on air. But tell us what tempted you to get into the political fray here and make a difference in America.
Well, essentially, I'm born and raised in Flint, Michigan, the birthplace of General Motors, the birthplace of the middle class, a place that's been represented by Democratic leadership for the last 50 plus years. And we've seen nothing but decline in this area. No matter how hard the people of this district, the blue collar industrial Americans are working, they just can't seem to get ahead because we've had lack of innovation, lack of insight from the Democratic Party. And now they're taking it a step further. Not only are they not representing our best interests, bringing new industries to the district, now they're pushing radical ideologies on our children. And then they're using the people that are responsible for them being in office, really the community in which I come from, the Black community, and blaming them for why illegal immigrants deserve to vote in our process by saying that, well, Black people can't get voter IDs or they can't get passports as if we don't travel or we don't have the same opportunities. And I'm pushing back on the narrative. No longer are we going to be the scapegoat for the Democratic Party, bringing this country down and bringing this district down. We're fighting back, and I'm a representation of that.
I have to remind everybody the great water crisis that occurred in Flint, which was a great example of bad governments and bad oversight. You're running against a Democrat, Kristen McDonald, pretty liberal, big fan of the Green New Deal, which drove up our energy prices and destabilized our grid. How do people connect with you as you start to talk about these issues? Do they realize that those policies are what's hurting them at the dinner table, at the gas pump?
Absolutely, without question. When I'm in her hometown of Bay City, they bring up two things. They bring up the Green New Deal and how it's going to raise the prices of energy, how it's unsustainable for wind and solar when we know we need to unleash energy in our district. We are a competitive district when it comes to all the industrial times, but if she's trying to limit those opportunities. On top of it, I'll tell you a quick story. In Bay City, there are cities surrounded by bridges. She brought a toll bridge to her hometown, and to the point where every time you cross the bridge, it's $5.50. So I'm in a place that people are making money stretch, like everyday Americans working, budgeting. Imagine that you have to give up whatever luxury you have, whether that's a Starbucks cup of coffee. Every single time you cross the bridge, you're losing $10 round trip or $11 round trip. That's the lack of representation. This is what we have to fight for here. We have to bring back common sense legislation that has the everyday American in mind. That is what we're fighting for. That is what I'm fighting for. That's what I'm seeing firsthand.
Yeah, no, it's important. And you are giving voice to those folks. You have an extraordinary career before you did this. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your service, and some of the issues that matter most to you.
Well, I always say I was raised in Flint, but I became a man of the U.S. Navy. I did almost 8 years in the U.S. Navy as a military police officer and as an intelligence analyst. I've served from the Horn of Africa chasing pirates or fighting pirates to chasing submarines from Japan and Asia to serving in Guantanamo Bay, locking up terrorists and detainees. So I have a varied experience in the military. Also, I'm a retired federal law enforcement officer. And so the protests we're seeing, the things that are going on in Minnesota, when they're talking about abolishing ICE, making it dangerous for law enforcement officers to keep our country safe, to get rid of people that have already broken the law, and then using it as a rallying cry for their party as to why Republicans are terrorists and Gestapo, even though they're the ones who's actually getting funded by Nazi sympathizers. They call us Gestapo, but my opponent is taking money directly from somebody who is a proven Nazi sympathizer. See, the thing is, the left, they try to attack us and our message, even though we're the ones actually fighting for America. As a law enforcement officer from the Black community in which they say they're affected, or the minority community, I can proudly say that we are supporting law enforcement because they are keeping these streets clean for American citizens, those who care about America. That is what we represent. That's what I'm pushing for, and I'll continue to fight for. I've had almost 20 years of law enforcement and military experience, and this is just another step to represent our country as I have for the last 2 decades.
So very important. And in just 1 year, crime way down in America, inflation way down in America, the economy itself and job creation starting to grow very quickly, the amount of money going back into people's pockets and not into the government. Till has gone in with the Trump tax cuts. How do people view the economy during this moment of transition from Biden to the Trump economy?
They're optimistic. We're seeing it. We see it at the gas pumps. You know, last year, all we heard about was the price of milk, the price of bread, the price of eggs. Well, those have went down. The gas is here in Michigan is $2.79 a gallon. So you're saving $30, $40 a month just off gas. And they blame President Trump. And they said all these negative things were going to happen, but it's been just the opposite. We are reaping the rewards of an administration that actually cares about the average day, the average person, the average citizen. That's what this president represents. He has real tangible results that have benefited us all. It's time we focus on the results and not just hope and promise. The left hopes, they give us hope and promise and rah-rah and great rallying cries. And people get behind that not knowing they're being bamboozled. Look at the real facts. Look at the real stats. Your life has improved under this administration. Don't fall for the lies and the slang.
Yeah. Wise advice. And Mayor, for people watching today, if they want to get involved with your campaign or learn more about you, what's the best way to do that?
Please visit me at Flip the 8th. Flip the number 8th. We're going to flip the 8th district. Listen, we have a great chance in the state of Michigan to have true representation from the governorship, senator, congressional, and even the state level. We have a great chance. My race, allow me to say this, please. I have one of the races that President Trump won during his cycle. We can win in this cycle. It's the most inexpensive race in the nation. With support and a unified party, we will bring representation for the country, representation for the district and the state of Michigan. People don't understand what they're missing out on until it comes back. That's why we're going to win it. I'm the candidate here in the 8th, and I'm going to fight to the tooth and nail to the very last day to bring representation to those who have not received it.
Yeah, that's pretty darn important. I love it. Flip the 8th. That's a pretty easy to remember. Good catch. Yeah, one. I've been covering politics long term. Never heard that one that good. Amir Hassan, great to have you on the show. We'll be sure to check in with you as the campaign wears out. But good to have you. Thank you so much.
Don, thank you so much. I'm grateful. I appreciate it. Talking to you.
Thank you for your service, too. We love that a lot. All right, folks, coming up next, New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani's collectivist policies left a lot of people so out in the cold, they died in it. A lot of people concerned about his ability to govern a big city. We got a great guest who's been tracking it day in and day out from our good friends at the Heritage Foundation. We'll have that next, right after these messages.
Exactly what they're doing. They want to steal the election. We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue, and we're going to the Capitol. They need to take back our country.
Events in Washington have taken a violent and tumultuous turn.
January 6th wasn't just a moment in history. For thousands of Americans, it was the moment their voices were taken.
It's insurrection.
They were persecuted, hunted.
Seditious conspiracy.
But behind prison walls, something unexpected happened. They found their voice again.
Started singing the national anthem.
We took it up to him at Mar-a-Lago. He goes, I'll put my voice on it.
Our supporters made this go platinum.
Real America's Voice is telling the real story of January 6th like you've never seen it before.
Everybody, this must be peaceful.
This is not the story you were shown.
I take responsibility.
This is the story they live.
Government entrapment scheme that this actually was.
The J6 Patriots are no longer staying silent. They are speaking, they are standing, and they are telling the truth.
You can't kill us. You can't beat us.
Scan the QR code or visit RealAmericasVoice.com. Real America's Voice presents The Sleeping Giant. Available now.
Welcome back, everybody. A lot more fun ahead. Joining us now, a senior research associate in the Heritage Foundation's Thomas A. Rowe Institute for Economic Policy Studies, and our Mamdani expert. Yes, the mayor of New York has to have his own expert given his policies, Nicole Hoyer. Nicole, great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me on.
All right. This has been quite a launch for a mayor. We have everything from government-owned grocery stores on the table to massive tax increases to begging the state of New York for money because they're broke. In the meantime, maybe socialized housing on top of it. Were we ready for this much chaos in New York City?
I don't think we were ready for it. Absolutely not. And I mean, those are certainly his policies, but we've already seen tremendous failures so far. Look at his response to a snowstorm. Something is taken for granted as even that. We have snow on the roads still, ice on the roads, garbage piled 8 feet high. And that's not even the worst of it. We have actual human casualties. People froze to death. I think the number is 19 now, the body toll. 19 people froze to death on New York City streets because of the mayor's ineptitude. If that's the warmth of collectivism, I certainly want no part of it, and neither should New Yorkers.
Yeah, the warmth of collectivism led a lot of people out in the cold to die. It's actually really just so remarkable. We had a lot. It was one of the most popular stories here. People just learning how badly Mondami handled a basic snowstorm, which by the way, in New York, you're going to get every year. So, bit of a use of them. All right, so. It seems like some dynamics have happened. Mondami's own party seemed to poke him in the ribs about his snow party performance or snow storm performance. And then you've got the sort of back and forth because he instantly has a financial crisis. He can't pay for what he promised his people. How are those two dynamics working out right now?
Yeah, the most recent news in terms of the $12 billion budget deficit that he reported about 2 weeks ago was recently revised down to $7 billion as a sort of attempt to get the state legislature on board with his plan to raise taxes, which is obviously going to be detrimental to New York City's economy if he's able to do that. So both of these things, like we talked about, the snowstorm, the budget deficit, are both things that are causing definitely a little bit of a struggle within the Democratic Party.
When you bring a corporate tax hike to a city like New York, it gets passed down, one, to the consumer, if you're in the consumer business, or it's going to get down to the workers, right? The workers are going to end up getting less because the company can't afford to pay them or their fringes like they do when more taxes come in. How does that work into the conversation, or has that not really hit the workforce yet?
John, that's exactly right. It's important to note, too, that New York City already has exorbitantly high corporate tax rates, 21% at the federal level, 7.25% at the state level, and 8.75 or 8.85 at the local level. So corporations are already paying a high degree in taxes, certainly. And if we increase that rate by any more, that's of course, added expense for corporations. And like you said, they pass those oftentimes onto consumers in the form of higher prices, or they will pass them on to workers in the form of layoffs or reduced hours or reduced benefits. So by raising taxes, you're not just hurting corporations, essentially. You're hurting the labor force, and you're hurting consumers as well.
Yeah. When I first came to town a long time ago in Washington, one of my early mentors said, by the way, taxes always roll downstream, meaning everyday people end up inheriting the cost of that tax. Before we leave New York, not only, the socialist agenda here isn't just about the economy, though that's the most important part, but there is a cultural element to New York City, and things like attending the Archbishop's installation would be something that almost every mayor would have done in the last century, except for Mondami. He seems to also be having a difficult time adapting to some of the long-term expectations of a New York mayor, such as making sure the Catholic Church, you attend their installation of a new archbishop. Those things don't play well as well, right? They end up with a lot of bad ink for him early on in his honeymoon period.
It's absolutely a slap in the face that he's not doing all of these things that a traditional mayor would. Like you mentioned, with not attending the Archbishop, and kind of the slap in the face to the Catholic community, certainly. But what could we expect from a mayor that is essentially trying to turn New York City into not just, I guess, a Muslim country, but a socialist one as well?
Yeah. Really remarkable. All right, how long do you think it is before we see the people of New York start to flee in a number that actually gets the attention of the rest of the world?
I wouldn't, if he was able to pass his tax proposals that he wants to, the raising of corporate taxes, the 2% penalty tax, I think it would be almost immediate that we would begin to see population exodus right out of the city. I mean, in the last 5 years alone, in gross net migration out of the city, we've seen 1.5 million people. In the last decade, about 2.5 to 3 million people have left the city. So if you continue down this path of increasing taxes and implementing all of these socialist policies, ranging from the government grocery stores to the $30 minimum wage to housing proposals, you're certainly going to see a lot of people leaving the city.
Yeah. The big apple might be Mandami's medium-sized apple before he's all done. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Nicole, always a great honor to have you on. We're going to get you on often because we want people to see this in real time, what he's doing to one of America's great cities. But thanks for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Yeah, great conversation. All right, folks, we got a quick commercial break. More around the corner right after these messages. Hey, folks, let's be honest. Our body lets us know, right? We're not getting any younger. And if you want to look and feel your best, you need to check out our good friends at Pure Health Research. They have 45 premium health supplements designed to help with every health goal, whether it's boosting your energy, trimming belly fat, supporting healthy blood sugar, pumping your testosterone up, or even reducing swelling in your legs. Pure Health Research Supplement Store has you covered. Each formula is crafted with natural, non-GMO ingredients backed by clinical research and manufactured right here in the good old USA. And here's the best part. Pure Health Research is offering you an exclusive 35% discount. You heard me right, 35% off. Just go to purehealthresearch.com and use the coupon code JUSTNEWS at checkout. With their 365-day money-back guarantee, there's zero risk in trying something new, so why wait? Head over to purehealthresearch.com right now. Explore their 45 amazing supplements and save 35% before this deal ends with the coupon code JUSTNEWS. Don't miss this chance to feel your best.
The radical left knows exactly what they're doing. They want to steal the election. We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue, and we're going to the Capitol. They need to take back our country.
Events in Washington have taken a violent and tumultuous turn.
January 6th wasn't just a moment in history. For thousands of Americans, it was the moment their voices were taken.
It's insurrection.
They were persecuted, hunted,
seditious conspiracy.
but behind prison walls, something unexpected happened. They found their voice again.
Started singing the national anthem.
We took it up to him at Mar-a-Lago. He goes, I'll put my voice on it.
Our supporters made this go platinum.
Real America's Voice is telling the real story of January 6th like you've never seen it before.
Everybody, this must be peaceful.
This is not the story you were shown.
I take responsibility.
This is the story they live.
Government entrapment scheme that this actually was.
The J6 Patriots are no longer staying silent. They are speaking, they are standing, and they are telling the truth.
You can't kill us. You can't beat us.
Scan the QR code or visit RealAmericasVoice.com. Real America's Voice presents The Sleeping Giant. Available now.
Welcome back, everybody. Earlier this week, we talked about a warning that federal regulators sent Apple News because it does appear from the statistics it routinely discriminates against conservative news sites. We know that for the great work of the Media Research Center. And joining us right now is their vice president for free speech at the Media Research Center, Dan Schneider, our good friend. Dan, welcome back to the show. Congratulations. MRC has been tracking this Apple News phenomenon for a long time. Actually, not a phenomenon. It's pretty clear what they're doing. Tell us what you learned. And shortly after the letter from regulators, a little crack in the Apple News blockade.
Yeah, well, they're the two worst of these aggregators in terms of real impact that's clearly measurable. The Apple phone and then any Samsung or Google-powered technology, which is, Samsung is the biggest of those. But between Apple and Google, 99.7% of smartphone users are using one of those two phones. And they're both pre-installed with their news service, Apple News or Google News. And Apple News, today's the 100th day. It took 100 days before Apple News published a single story from a right-leaning outlet. That's in comparison to 1,379 stories from left-leaning outlets. It's propaganda. And it's, of course, John, it's on purpose. It's designed specifically to try to get people to hate Donald Trump, to hate Republicans, and frankly, to hate American values.
It's very, very troubling, and your statistics are very, very clear. I mean, data doesn't lie. In this case, is a really great example. So all right, the FTC, I think it is, sends a warning letter. That's a good start. Yeah. But what can we all do? We're all sitting at home. We got voices, we got choices. How do we get Apple's attention and say enough with this silliness?
Well, I'll tell you that the four big news apps, and it's Apple News, Google News, Microsoft's MSN News, and then Yahoo. And Yahoo has a massive reach people don't understand. But they all took a real beating yesterday because consumers and voters said no. So what could people do? They could go on Twitter or any other social media platform and tweet straight at Tim Cook or Sundar Pichai at Apple and Google and say, why is this happening? If these corporations get a sense that consumers are really upset, they can change. And then, of course, the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, that warning letter is serious because if Apple and Google have been misrepresenting to their customers what their news apps are doing, there could be some hefty penalties coming down the road.
It seems to me that if we bought an Apple device and we subscribed to Apple News and we found out that it was intentionally hijacking the news, are we victims of fraud in some way?
Well, if you sign up for the Democratic National Committee email, you're expecting to get DNC talking points. That's not fraud. That's nothing wrong with that. But if you're subscribing to Apple and they have represented or have caused you to believe that what they're going to send you is balanced information, well, you've just been defrauded. That is a consumer harm that the FTC is very concerned with, and every single state attorney general in the country is concerned with. This is not a free speech question. These companies have free speech rights, but committing fraud, you can't hide behind the First Amendment and say, well, I can commit fraud because the free speech protects my ability to lie to people.
That's really it. I think you're onto something, and this is systemic. I mean, I think that's the amazing work that you've done at MRC. And by the way, we see it on the broadcast networks too, which are by over-the-air public airwaves. You have shown how systemic this enforced bias is. We wouldn't know half of this without the great work you and your team have done at Media Research Center. Dan, always an honor to have you on the show.
Hey, thanks, John.
Yeah, I love it. Folks, go check out the Media Research Center. It is a must-read. I check it every single day when I wake up. Such important work. All right, we've got a weekend ahead of us, a holiday weekend, President's Day on Monday. But let's keep an eye. Next week could be a big week for election integrity. We're working on some new stories that could come out in the next 10 days. We're also waiting to see some action in Arizona. We saw a little while ago, Kristi Noem talking about the importance to have better election integrity in the equipment in America. She's hinting at something. I'm doing some reporting. I think we'll be able to break some news next week. So set your dials for next week right here, 6 o'clock Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. I think we'll be breaking some election integrity news. Until then, God bless you. Have a great week, and everybody.
The radical left knows exactly what they're doing. They want to steal the election. We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue, and we're going to the Capitol. They need to take back our country.
Events in Washington have taken a violent and tumultuous turn.
January 6th wasn't just a moment in history. For thousands of Americans, it was the moment their voices were taken.
It's insurrection.
They were persecuted, hunted,
Seditious conspiracy.
but behind prison walls, something unexpected happened. They found their voice again.
Started singing the national anthem.
We took it up to him at Mar-a-Lago. He goes, I'll put my voice on it.
Our supporters made this go platinum.
Real America's Voice is telling the real story of January 6th like you've never seen it before.
Everybody, this must be peaceful.
This